Hello and welcome to Analysts Gone Wild. It's Friday afternoon. We have hopefully a beautiful day in paradise for everybody, wherever you're located. Thank you for joining. Robert Kramer here. I'm joined with three other phenomenal analysts. We're going to go through some great stories today. Why don't we introduce ourselves and tell us what's cooking? Not in the kitchen, though. Let's go to you, Shashit. How are you? What's going on? What's the new
Good.
word?
No, good to see you, Robert and Sam. Thank you for having me on the show. Good to see Michael. I think we've crossed paths a couple of times this week.
Definitely.
Very small, welcoming community of analysts.
Yeah.
But when we go wild, we really go wild, right?
We have to, right?
Yeah.
I work for the Infotech Research Group. I'm the principal research director there. My coverage is a little bit more broad on business value of software. And I firmly believe categories are dead. Sam, don't have a heart attack. Over to you, Michael.
Definitely not.
Thanks, Sashi. Yeah, good to see you again. Michael Fawcett. I'm the founder, CEO of Arian Research. Also host a podcast called Disambiguation that is enterprise AI, and another show on the Players Production Network, like Sashi, a show called In the Hot Seat. And we focus a lot on the intersection of AI and enterprise applications.
Sam, how are we doing today?
I'm
Always
doing
good to talk to you. And how's it going in Canada? You guys are working today?
Canada is not working, and that's why we don't have Brian here, even though they both work for the same company, I guess. Brian Jackson was part of this show as well, Shashi. Yeah. And he's like, okay, I'm off. And that's why I had to ask everybody if everybody was off. So I think rest of the world is off except the US. So again, about me, Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent vendor agnostic technology advisory firm. I'm also the host of WBS Rocks. Over to you, Robert.
Well, we got some great stories, and I know we got a holiday weekend. So let's just jump into the stories and see what we all think. I know Blue Yonder, they're expanding their AI agents and mobile applications. Blue Yonder is a major supply chain application, and it's worldwide global applications. So expanding their AI agents. So is that anything new that we feel is groundbreaking? The agents are role specific. They handle end-to-end planning, execution, fine. Why is this a big deal? Let's go over that, team members. Does this benefit who? I believe like retailers and manufacturers, obviously. What are the pros and cons and who benefits from this? As we were just talking, Shashi, you said, you're focused on, execution and the business layer. I think everything is all about the outcomes. And so maybe we can address that a little bit because you did talk about that. Let's start with you first. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I liked is Blue Yonder focuses a lot on retail. And a lot of companies just try to, make their software good for somebody who's on a desktop. And this is more like if you're looking at stocks and things like that. Now, the word agent is very confusing. I think what people want to see is anything that makes their job easier, right? So, but Blue Yonder, because everybody is doing agentic, they're saying, hey, we also have agents. Now, one thing, it seems like they have heavily integrated into Microsoft. I don't know if anybody on this call has tried creating an agent using Microsoft Copilot. My God, it's like the word when it was introduced, right? And I've tried this a couple of times. Either it does everything for you, and at the end, you don't have a URL that you can send to somebody to try that agent. So companies like Blue Yonder have to help out in this. So saying like, don't try anything on your own. We will help you with your business process and make it much more efficient. I mean, that stock one I thought was really very good. That's a challenge. How do you do that? How do you automate that process? So on the whole, I think it's a good one. Mobile app is also nice for people who are not at desks. That's my
Okay, Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take that conversation up one level, Robert, and think about this as an example of one of the two ways that you're starting to see enterprise AI play out, right? This is the legacy I application now that agents of my application across this process and broken things up into small chunks of the workflow process. Then you also see the opposite end from like OpenAI. You have the whole, frontier, the whole platform play that more of a horizontal play that gives you agents that you can customize into these different workflow processes. So a little different, but I thought this was really interesting. And as such, I think one of the biggest things from a supply chain standpoint is the mobile idea, the mobile app, and the support that you get, because that's where people that work in logistics work, is out and about, right? So I thought that was positive.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, great comments, guys. First off, I like the way Shashi had started that Blue Yonder's positioning is going to be in retail. That's their sort of the target vertical. In market, I guess their positioning is supply chain suite, is how they are positioned. Okay, so generally retailers have very different architecture. Even though, Robert, I mean, obviously you like to talk that everything needs to be ERP, but for retailers it's a very different problem. So they need to retain their inventory, and I think you mentioned stocks, and sometimes that could be slightly confusing, I guess, for people, because stocks could be stock ticker as well, right? And also here we are talking about inventory. Obviously that has to have some sort of stock as well, right? So that's why stock term is used, but their positioning in the market is going to be really the supply chain suite. There are many different layers of supply chain suite, which is going to be your WMS, TMS, plus merchandising, planning, so many different things that you do from the retailer perspective. Now, this is very interesting because they are launching the AI app, and plus obviously they have the agentic layer as well, which I'm going to touch just in a second. Number one, mobile app is very interesting. I don't know which company would launch a mobile app in 2026. Doesn't make any sense, but maybe they didn't have it. I don't know. I really don't know what's going on, or maybe mobile app is going to help from the agentic interaction perspective. In general, mobile app would have substantial benefit, at least in my mind, if I look at the functionality of supply chain suite, because the way these suites work is you rely on input from your store agents, and generally that layer is not necessarily connected. So when you look at the supply chain suite and the stores are going to have sort of the POS network, POS layer, and then that does not necessarily communicate with the supply chain suite layer. So that's where the major problems are going to be. So hopefully the agents can help with that communication. In general, with retail, the architecture is very, very, very fragmented. So those would be my comments. Yeah.
So
Because,
Sam, just to add one quick thing about the mobile app, the fact that it can orchestrate agents was the point, I think, and I didn't say that explicitly. So you're right. Having a mobile app's not necessarily a great thing, but having a mobile app where you can orchestrate the agent activities, that makes a difference. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And Leonard just posted a comment about the POS system. Is that integrated? And you're basically saying not necessarily right now, but the agents might help with that convenience. Is that correct?
So I think POS market is very different. Some vendors have POS layer included as part of that, but I don't know how many companies would like to use a POS from a supply chain suite vendor, because when you get into the real POS play, POS obviously is a category as well. Then you get into the real hardware, the offline transactions. Even though we are living in the age of AI, the offline transactions still matter. The foot speed still matter inside the store. The kind of tracking that you are going to have inside the store still matters. So the POS market is very, very, very different from supply chain suite market. So there you are going to have vendors like IBM, NCR, Oracle still has POS, I guess, some of them. And there are many of these smaller ones as well.
Also, maybe this is going to predict what's going to happen in the future. Like how, as consumers, how many times you go into a store and there's something out of stock? By now, I think there should have been ways by which they can predict traffic unless there's a big storm or something like that. And even that, I think companies have started looking at weather data and trying to say, like, we need to send snow shovels to these areas and things like that, right? And very often now, salespeople still go into retail to check and see on the shelf
Yeah.
if how many stock items are left and go and talk to the procurement guy. So that could be part of the next Blue Yonder, roadmap should be that, where they're able to help their customers and say like zero no stock software, right? That's going to help all your customers come and say like, we'll surely have this in stock when you come in.
Yeah, so Shashi, I don't think that problem is going to be solved in next 50 years. I guarantee this. I don't care how powerful AI could be, but these are all operational, problems and people-related problems. The inventory, the way architecture is supposed to be. So there are always technology constraints. The way technology is supposed to work, people feel that it's some sort of magic wand, right? But retail architecture has not evolved in last 50 years, and I don't have any hope that it is going to be evolved in next 50 years as well. People were arguing that, hey, composable might work. But I don't know if you have seen any sort of composable implementation so far. Generally, the composable system sits somewhere in the corner and super buggy. Nobody can trust it. In the store, if you walk there, and then they are talking about some fancy business models, but it doesn't work, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, but somebody who's listening to this show has already started writing on a piece of paper about how they're going to solve this. Like some of the technologies, at least I've been listening to, is RFIDs in packaging material that will actually tell them what is moving and what is not moving, so they can actually call the procurement and say like, "Hey, I'm going to make your job easy by sending you more boxes," right?
Well,
So-
let's talk about that for just a second. Retail, it's complicated, but it's doable to, I'm not sure 100%, but it's doable with good software. If it goes, how far it goes out to the warehouses and the barcode labeling and things of that nature and the POS systems. So it can be sophisticated and help. I think it comes down to one thing, which is inventory control. So having the right inventory at the right time and not having excess inventory so you don't have these large sales and give it away later. Producing too much when you don't need to, or producing too little and running out. I think that's the quandary in the sense in retail, but I'm not sure what you guys think.
Have you seen how car buying has changed in the last 4 years? You can now go and say like, "Hey, show me all your models anymore," right? So they're just going to say like, "Which car do you want? We're going to order it for you." And all the car companies are still selling the same amount of goods. It's not like it's a shortage. So retailers may actually benefit by investing in software that makes it no stock ever, no out of stock ever kind of situation.
Well, that's where they're losing money on inventory, because if their inventories, you ever walk in a showroom somewhere and they have a massive amount of inventory, well, that's going to be a problem. There's a reason why they're going to have a sale, because they have too much inventory. That's the key, I think, but that's just my opinion. You guys,
last 3 months, we couldn't even buy salt to melt the snow.
Yeah, but I mean, those are supply chain problems, and I think there is a component called geopolitics that get involved there, and much bigger than
we're rationing the
guess.
salt to you guys.
Yeah. You don't get salt because you're not nice to me, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so Leonard has a question here, if you want to put that up, but I think we already answered this first question, but is that one, if you want to. But
the POS one, or which one?
This one right here that you're on.
Okay.
I like his comment on robotic shovels. I want one.
Okay, so Leonard is saying, but seriously, wouldn't a POS system tell the supply chain in real time what is selling and what needs to be restocked? It could tell, but communication is a lot more than that. And inventory is a very compound equation. If you want your inventory to be balanced and aligned, that means 10,000 tables need to move together. And the speed at which retail moves, it's much faster than those 10,000 tables. So that's why that problem exists. I don't know if we are ever going to be there in terms of technology to be able to solve this problem. And that's exactly why we have this problem. That's why POS architecture needs to be disconnected from your supply chain suite, most likely from your ERP architecture in the backend as well. Any more comments here, guys? Okay. Do you want to go to the next story, Robert?
Yeah, let's do the next one. So Zendesk. So what's interesting is they made a lot of different acquisitions. pretty rapidly. I guess we can talk about that and what they've done. So Forethought, they just acquired, or they're acquiring. I'm not sure if is it complete or not, but it's about integration, and it's about getting better on their complexities. So they are Zendesk. If you know a lot about them, probably, Michael. Their customer service platform, and Forethought, self-improving AI agents for customer experience. So it looks like they've just gotten into the agreement, but this is all about AI and offering a resolution platform with capabilities across their service platform and channels. I believe, Michael, do you know, is the deal closed? Because it says it was supposed to. But
yeah, the deal closed. As
it
far as I
hasn't.
know, the deal
It has.
is already closed. It's interesting, Robert. The one thing in here that jumps out to me is this this idea of resolution learning loop. The the fact that, I mean, agents were always, or agentic AIs were always supposed to be, the four phases: the perceive, plan, act, and learn. And learn's been the hard part. And if this actually works, which apparently it does, that could be a really interesting one, because it can find its own workflow gaps and start to fill those in with activities. So it gives you a much more complete solution that's going to evolve rapidly as it interacts and learns.
Can you give me an example of how the customers are going to benefit here? Like, explain that to the next level, but take it down a notch as far as the technology terms.
Sure. It's the idea is that if you have agency and you put them in an autonomous situation, and if they have agency, in other words, you set goals, and then you're setting some guardrails around that, because there's certainly some things you don't want it to do, and there's some things that you'd like it not to do. So that part is, there's some prepackagedness when you're building the agent. But the truth is, you're not going to be able, especially in a customer service situation, you can't anticipate every potential interaction with customers, right? Because they don't follow rules. They come and complain about whatever they want to, or ask for whatever they want to. So the idea would be that the agent then in the interaction can learn if it finds gaps in what it's supposed to know versus what it needs to know, and pull in information and context to help it learn to be able to deal with whatever that workflow situation might be. So that's
Right.
the learning piece is significant if it works.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, 80% seems very high, which means that people are probably calling even when they didn't need to,
Fair.
right? Or, I mean, one thing that I actually was quoted in a column in Forbes recently. One of the things is, like, all of this automation is not new. It's not a preach. Hey, ChatGPT is here, so that's why we have automation. Like, banks have been using this for things that are costly to them, which is password resets, right? Like, why would you even need to talk to a human being and tell them your even now, if you call a human being, they're going to send you to an automation to change your password, right? So things like that is going to be very helpful. But I won't use terms like 80% unless you actually specify, hey, what the functionality was. Because all of us have seen, like, where we are trying to hit zero, or we are trying to say, like, customer service or customer support. And the best thing is, the companies that are not AI savvy are actually changing their IVR just to trick us into not using that shortcut option.
Yeah.
But Zendesk, I think, does a good job in bringing more technology to their customers. So I think this is also a good one, where who wouldn't like them to automatically close tickets? Customers will like less hold time. Customers will like their issue being solved, and it can be scaled very fast. If they have an issue, it's not like you have to have a sufficient number of agents. Like, this thing scales very fast with some of the vendors that I've seen. So I'm sure that's what Zendesk's strategy is here.
Yeah. And I mean, the other piece here that's important, though, is that difference between kind of the traditional chatbot agent, which is rules based, versus an agentic type agent that has the ability to work towards goals that you define in governance systems that you define around that. So it's a little different than the traditional approach, because it's not necessarily rules based, although certainly you can build guardrails in.
Right. Sam, what do you think?
Some great comments here, guys. So I think I'm going to have just one minor comment. I think you guys have covered this pretty well. So my comment is going to be around this whole expansion into the enterprise systems, and I don't know how possible that is going to be, and how realistic that would be. Maybe it can get data the way Salesforce architecture is going to work, or the agentic layer that they are trying to propose. But that's where my concern would be a little bit. Now, if this data is only to query or answer the questions that agents have to field, then that's a different case. I guess that should be possible. But again, that's where my concerns would be. I don't know, Michael, if you have thought about that, or if you have any sort of comments there on that use case.
I mean, that is the plan. The deployment is to provide these as autonomous agents on the edge to interact with customers, right? And it does. The one thing underneath this too, Sam, was this idea of cross-channel, so chat, email, voice, right? Because that is unique. Most of the agents that you've seen aren't across all three channels. They're really chat-based or email and chat-based, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like between voice and text, of course, they're all getting smarter. But having been in, of course, this was decades ago, imagine customers calling and saying, "Where do I log in?" So it's not a service problem. It's a problem about products. So those kind of tickets can be like quickly closed, I'm sure, using AI.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, some of those things, some support tickets are very simple, right? And it is simply having the knowledge base available to be able to pull up that standard answer of, it's on the left, look. Like, it's blue, push the button. I don't know.
Robert, do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. Actian launches a AI analyst, formerly Wabi. So Actian's the data and AI division of HCL Software, if I'm correct, and they introduced the AI analyst, and everybody's, I think, getting into more of this conversational analytics based solution featuring the Steward agent. That's an intelligent. It's intelligence that generates and provides ongoing maintenance in a semantic layer to trusted delivery. So, I'm not sure this is par for the course, I guess, guys. And what I like to talk a little bit about what the outcome is for the customers here and what this means and what you think their challenges are, because a lot of these stories have some very similar middle grounds. But what's the end result give us that we think is an outcome that is different than what we would expect?
Well, the key to this is that Steward agents and automation to keep your semantic layer or the context that you need for the other agents to function. So this is like having a data automation tool, or in this case, a semantic automation tool that keeps your knowledge graph current, so that in fact your agents can find the right answers in the right context and have the right relevant content to actually get to an answer. So that's, again, I haven't seen this work, but the idea is pretty cool.
Where I've seen this, especially in the manufacturing and industry concept, is like, for example, you add a new pump to your stock, right? So the person who's entering, if it is manual, is going to say like, "Hey, this is a pump," and make spelling mistakes, and it's not the same label. So no matter which AI you have, that's going to have a data problem. I think the way I see this is for everything that they have, having an ontology and classification of everything that you have automatically is a big thing. Yeah. I mean, pre-internet days, that shows you how old I am. People had to go physically look at things and say like, yes, this is really present and this is what it's classified as. With this, hopefully, taking pictures will identify it, and there's a lot of technology there. I think this is something that I'm a big proponent of, not what you have in a conversation with AI, but what happens behind the scenes. And this is another like important behind the scenes development that is essential, so that you have high accurate data when you get it.
Yeah. I guess one of the questions is, and I couldn't tell from this, was how much manual curation still needed for like edge cases, ambiguous definitions, that sort of thing. Because there must be some, and I'd be curious to see, if if and how much human interaction is required to keep that knowledge graph up to date.
That's a pretty big key, though. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, so some very interesting comments here, guys. So my take on this would be, number one, I mean, ACL Software is a very interesting play here. Obviously, we have seen a lot of different consulting companies launching their own either agentic offerings or the agents or something related to AI products. I don't know where this overlap is going to be, right? Because if you look at conversational analytics solutions, Salesforce is trying to do a lot there. HubSpot is trying to do a lot there. So is this going to be in competition with them? Possibility. And obviously there is a lot happening in the long-standing process space, the point that Michael was trying to mention. So yes, the way I like to look at semantic layer, and Michael, I don't know if you agree with me, it's almost like some sort of, you are maintaining a cache or context, and then, but I don't know how effective that is going to be, because my understanding of AI is that the long-standing processes, the accuracy sort of decreases as you increase the overarching span. AI is really good at very short spans, and as soon as you are going to increase the scope, the accuracy suffers in general. It's improving, but it's pretty bad, for the long-standing processes. So I don't know how much this is going to help. We have seen some commentary from other companies as well that they are trying to figure this out, but I don't know how effective that is going to be.
No, I mean, you're starting to see things evolve. Like I'll give you a simple example, because the context is the problem, right?
Yeah.
It has a limited context window no matter which LLM you've deployed. Now we're getting to context windows that are huge, certainly much bigger than they were. But if you build into the system, like, I have let's say I have an ongoing discussion with Claude Cowork.
Yeah.
You'll see in the middle, it'll go, I'm compressing this conversation so I can maintain the memory and context.
Yeah.
It's automatically doing that thing for you. And that's where we have to get pretty soon, is systems that if you start to be, to exceed the ability to maintain that context, it has to be able to use retrieval augmented generation of some form, right? There's a bunch of different versions of that. It can go out and pull that relevant context back in based on whatever the context is. And that's why that semantic layer is extremely important, because it's a guidebook to be able to find that, right?
Yeah, and Michael, in my personal experience, when I use anything with context, especially things like ChatGPT, I have a little problem with that, because when I'm searching for, let's say, Gupta ERP, and I am telling ChatGPT or LLM said, I'm trying to be funny here, but don't remember anything that I said right now for the next query, because I want you to be serious. So the context, it's a tricky game. So I don't know, I definitely don't want it to remember everything, but I do want it to remember something, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends. If you think about it from an enterprise perspective, and there's two things, right? There's context, which is one piece of it, and there's memory, right? Context is the ability to pull up relevant information in the moment for whatever the conversation is. But memory is that other thing you're talking about, Sam, the ability to have a history of that conversation. And the way that you see it in Claude Cowork today, is it maintains those by threads. So you go into that thread and then you're having that conversation, unless you tell it that you want this to be general knowledge across all these interactions that you're having. So the systems are getting better, but certainly is still a rapid evolution.
Yeah. I mean, one thing to add here is especially enterprises, let's say you had 40 years worth of data, right? And you manage to bring it all into one place. You have an email from 20 years ago, you have a phone conversation from 10 years ago, and you have the latest document. Now, like Michael said, without context, you don't know which answer to give you. Yeah. But having tagged all of this and having very specific metadata around all of this, it's going to bring like, hey, I totally understand you. You want the latest information and not the older information. Yeah. That's where these things reduce hallucination. Otherwise, they're going to say like, 30 years ago, we didn't have this. So sorry, I don't have an answer for you, without trying to see if there are similar items within the system, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting problem too, if you think about it just from a policy perspective, because if you say, okay, you can approve everything up to $500, last week, and then this week you go, okay, now you can approve everything up to $1,000. Well, it depends on which one of those two policies it pulls, right? So if in this case it establishes that metadata, so it knows take the most recent, then that's you'll get the right answer. But if it just takes the first one it comes to, maybe it's stored in a way that 500 shows up first, and then you're in trouble.
Right.
Yeah, Leonard has a comment too.
Yep.
Okay, so,
we got a comment. Let's go with that then, Sam.
yeah. So Leonard is saying, I'm thinking the comparison to OpenAI ChatGPT is not fair, as this would likely be a closed small language model, even on the enterprise level, not a LLM. It wouldn't be worldwide, just company-wide, maybe a medium language model. I don't know which comment he's talking about.
No, I know what he's talking about. So this is, no, you're right, Leonard. That is when you put an agent, a monitoring agent in place, like a semantic interceptor, for example, in a customer service system, the agents themselves are running on a large language model, but the interceptor agent is actually running on a small language model that's trained on all of the culture of the company, right? It knows these kinds of answers are acceptable, these aren't, and in real time it's filtering those agents so it can go, no, this is not the correct answer, or this is the correct answer, unless it passed through. Latency would be almost non-existent because it's at machine speed, but the point is that small language model holds different context than the general availability language model. So the graph could easily be in that small language model, and that could be how that semantic graph's maintained. I don't know if that's exactly the way they've implemented it, but that would be an accurate description of it.
So it seems there is a follow-up comment here, Michael. So perhaps it might be more accurate, right? So okay, you agree with that?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, perfect. Robert, do you want to go to the next one, or?
Yeah, let's do it. So we have Active Campaign spotlights 2 new capabilities. So they're an autonomous marketing platform, mostly for small to medium-sized businesses. They announced 2 first to market this quarter capabilities in its spring keynote. Agent to user AI, where AI autonomously initiates insights and recommendations based on performance, and AI personalization that allows businesses to tailor active intelligence to their brand voice and priorities. Who benefits from this? I guess probably be small to medium-sized companies that have a kind of on the lower end resources of marketing expertise. It'll help them monitor things better manually and give them ability to act more consistently. What do we think about this? Does this help marketing? I would assume there's a yes around the corner. How does this surface and implement long-term benefits? Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so the first piece of that, the idea that it's has the capability, and Active Campaign marketing automation solution that's been around for a while and certainly very well known in the mid-market. But the first piece, that it has an engine that recommends, or an agent that recommends to marketing, hey, do this based on this kind of behavioral signals that we pulled in. That makes sense. That seems like a useful thing. I mean, we're starting to see that in sales ops, for example, for sales. Focus on this lead, not that one, because historically these close easier, faster, or whatever. Same thing in marketing. If it helps guide me towards campaigns that are more effective, that's good. The second piece, I actually take issue with the wording, because I don't think what they're saying is what they're doing. It says AI personalization. That's not really what it's saying. They should probably call this AI branding, because the point is it's maintaining consistent brand voice and setting priorities that for the marketing campaigns, not personalizing anything for the end consumer. So that's a different thing. Not that it's not important, but it isn't personalization in my book. It's branding, and I think that's great. It maintains brand standards and helps the marketer, keep that voice consistent. That sounds good too, but it's a little different than personalization in my book.
Yeah.
Shashi, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, today a lot of marketing news I saw on this. I think probably because
especially for you, Shashi.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising. Like, I don't hear the name Active Campaign all that much, even though probably 10 years ago, Robert, you might agree, like they were doing a lot of things that especially with email, right? Now they call themselves an autonomous whatever agency. I don't think,
Gotta change your name with the times.
but I agree with Michael. Like they don't explain this very well. The use case that I'm thinking about is, number one, this seems to be towards agencies having multiple small business clients, right? So they can actually say, "Hey, roofer, I've personalized this campaign for you," and "Hey, plumber, I personalized this campaign for you," and maintaining brand consistency. I agree with Michael, but they could be doing much more. For example, what I'm taking from their proactive intelligence is, when a small business is writing an email, it's actually telling them there is only a 50% chance that this email will be opened because you have a bad subject line. And from your past intelligence, I don't know if they're doing this, but this is what they should be doing.
Yeah.
From your past intelligence, changing these words, like Google does that today, right? Like if you're writing, it will actually tell you, it doesn't tell you that this will be opened or anything, but gives you a intelligent, like, help me write kind of thing. So making this, I wish they had simplified the language here so everybody would understand. It's going to help me get better engagement. It's going to help me write better. It's going to help me maintain brand consistency no matter who's.
Well, that's the outcomes we're talking about that aren't told.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of jargon in this. So sorry, Active Campaign.
Well, don't you think that's what most companies are doing? They're pitching you on their capabilities versus what I do once I have those capabilities.
Yes.
So now I'm there. Tell me what's going to do for my business. And not every business is alike. Not every business is in the same vertical or same size or same innovation aptitude internally.
Yeah.
So where am I going to, what's that benefit to me?
And I mean, if you think about that, Robert, too, that's sort of where you saw companies a year or two, ago. But that this year, once you start to see proof of concept move out into production, you start to see companies focus on a really different thing, right? On what it's actually going to do, what's the process, what's the outcome I expect, and they're not just buying the technology, because that was an old thing, right? A year ago, maybe I was buying it because I just wanted to have that. I need that technology. Now I need it to do something and pay for itself, or I don't want it.
Well, don't you think that hurts the customer? Because how do they get through all this to understand which outcome is best for them when it's not told?
I think you're absolutely. I think it definitely hurts the customer, and it makes it much less clear, because again, we haven't shifted messaging from the kind of, here you need some of this, to here you need to do this because you get X, Y, and Z out of it. And that's the narrative that needs to shift, right?
Yeah, there's no innovation aptitude journey or roadmap how I get to there.
Yep.
And how much work do I need to get from a setup perspective as well to take advantage of what you're telling me I'm going to get.
Yeah. And companies are starting to focus more on the process and the workflow than they are on the tool, and that's what needs to happen, right? That's where it has to go. And the vendors have to catch up to that. They need to message that in different ways. I absolutely think that's a big issue right now.
Yeah.
I think their message should have been, even before you send your first email, we'll predict the results that you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
That's strong in my opinion, but they have to express that.
Yeah.
So some great comments, guys. And number one, I guess, Shashi, you mentioned about email marketing in your comment. Obviously, now they call marketing automation autonomous marketing. And I think Salesforce even has a newer name for that, right? What is that? The subscription-less marketing, or what was the name of that? No reply marketing, something like that, right?
Yeah,
something along those lines. So overall, I guess when you look at these different platforms, the category has come a long way in my mind, Shashi. Okay, if you compare, let's say, something like MailChimp or HubSpot, they are distinctly different. HubSpot obviously can do a lot. That's how they have created the whole market for the marketing automation category. If you go to some of these enterprise platforms, they even have much broader capabilities. Okay, in terms of what you can do. Now, coming back to your benchmarking comment, I guess both of you had a lot of comment, including Robert as well. Benchmarking is a great idea. Even today, even the smaller tools, they are able to provide a lot. They all have some sort of AI underneath. The challenge with AI or benchmarking is that it does not understand the real context. So it can tell you, how you should be changing the subject line, but I don't think AI can ever figure out the industry politics and what resonates, with the customers and what vendors like. And that's where I guess the real marketing juice is. That's where the success is, and that's why a lot of when we deal with for our own campaigns with a lot of different marketers, they don't necessarily have the domain and industry expertise, and they cannot connect with the audience. So that's where the numbers need to be. If you want to know, okay, what is going to work with this very specific audience, and that is something I don't think AI can figure out.
I might disagree with you on that.
Okay, yeah, please.
If you're just talking about LLMs, you're right.
Yeah.
But the savvy way of doing that is, and I've done this like 6 years ago, where you export your data and your interaction, and then you train the AI on here are all the customers and here's everything they did.
Yeah.
Now, here are the prospects who is having high intent. And there are some companies actually doing that as part of their thing. So you're right. If you take a general one, they won't get it. But if you can narrow it down to here is how our prospects are interacting and here's how people have converted, I think that would be a much better way of doing that. Now, one thing about terminology, if your customers are small businesses, you don't need to use a lot of high sounding acronyms. You can just simply tell them like what it will do, like Robert said, what is the ultimate goal, what will you achieve by using this, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is sort of a signal that the marketing automation platforms are starting to recast themselves as, intelligent systems versus kind of the old, it's just an engine that churns out based on the workflow, right? So, I mean, I think that part's interesting. And certainly HubSpot, Klaviyo, Salesforce, they're all starting to reposition this way.
Yeah, one thing for all of you is if you're ever writing to a company to complain, just tell the AI, I want to get this refund. And I'm telling you, it's happened to me twice. Like they wrote better emails than me. And that person just said, hey, we're going to refund you.
Okay, refund.
Now that's a use case that I bet people are interested in, right?
Yeah, because they have that learning, right?
Okay, so we have one comment from Leonard. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that now. This is hiding everybody's faces, so I'm actually okay. Let's try this view. Maybe this is better, but it's going to probably hide for some people. So I'll try to read this quickly and remove that. Just give me a second, guys. I'm so sorry. So the real win, actually, StreamYard should be sorry here. The real win will be the company that can personalize the message to the end user. So it could look up the person it is sending to, customize the opening line for that person and each and every person, putting in the right links to the right articles for the end user personally. It would understand their past purchases, their interests, etc. I don't think we have that yet. So for Sam, it could say mention everyone but him has the day off, but it could tell me it's just another working. What do you guys think?
Well, so this is exactly what I was pointing out up front, right? That personalization in this context is not personalization for the end customer. There are systems that are getting much better at using behavioral data to do personalization or individualization for offers, emails, campaigns, whatever you want to see. Even views on the website. I've seen some retail solutions that change the background to pictures that are local to the shopper whenever you go in to look at the catalog. So that is happening, but not in this case. This is purely about maintaining brand consistency. That is a very different thing than being able to do the personalization. There are, Adobe, Salesforce, there are some companies that are Oracle. There are companies that are moving down that path, though.
Yeah. Any other follow-ups there on that?
The day we stop getting emails, dear first name will be the day that AI is really working.
Dear, fill in the name here.
Okay, guys, so we have one more comment here. Let's touch on that. This is much better. Maybe shorter comments work better, with StreamYard. So here, Leonard is saying, granted, there is email list segmentation, but personalization per end user, not yet.
No, actually, the systems are moving in that direction. You're correct. Personalization in the past has meant segmentation, and we have to get to the point of segmenting to one or segmenting to a much smaller segment, and that is in fact the direction for a lot of these platforms.
Perfect, guys. So I don't know if you guys want to move to the next story, Robert.
Yeah, let's do
Go ahead.
it. So we got Content Square announces new capabilities, and I believe that they're focusing a little bit more here on analytics. And so this is a digital analytics platform, and they are based out of France. They've expanded its platform with configurable AI agents, chat, GPT app, and prompt analytics, visibility into LLM traffic, conversation intelligence that gives everybody like kind of a 360 view of their AI driven and support experiences. This, what we're talking about here, I think is a far cry. Shashi, you were talking about where we were at 10 years ago. I mean, this is completely different. And I think it's important to set up also, Michael, to get to use these functions and features. What do I have to do? Because does it just come right at you and give me this stuff? Or it's great, but the setup seems like it's not apples to apples here of what we're getting with each company based upon what they're telling us with features and capabilities. So if you want to lean into that and what you think of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's so the idea is configurable. The point is AEO, answer engine optimization, or GEO, generative engine optimization. They're not exactly the same thing, but similar in effect, right? And the point is, this is analytics to actually look at and see how well you're doing in being recognized by those engines and being recommended. Now, there's other things in here, like having a MCP server and et cetera, to be able to connect things. But the idea is very important, and that is this. It's the next generation of SEO, except now it's AEO, and companies have to be aware of how they show up in those answer engines, and are they being represented both from a brand perspective and even from a segment or product perspective. I want to show up when it talks about my firm directly, Arion Research. Sure, it should show up, but it also should show up when they go looking for advice on AI agents and enterprise apps or something like that, right? So that optimization, being able to run the analytics against that and understand and improve your own performance, that's important.
Yeah, I've done research on this extensively, and I take a lot of calls on this. Like most of the websites have reduced organic traffic by about 30%.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean it's bad news. It's actually good news, in my opinion, because conversions have actually gone up, which means that the people who are kicking tires, trying to just learn about products, are now doing it outside your website. And people who are actually coming are people who are really interested in it. And one metric that I tell people to look at is how many pages did they see, right? I think the important thing that I took from this Content Square thing is their ability to tell you how the journey of people who come from LLMs, albeit it's not a huge percentage right now, but it's likely to increase. Even though we are paying a lot of attention, call it whatever label you want, but Google is still the 89.3% of all traffic comes, or all searches are still done in Google. It's only the early adopters like us. Even public are going into like Chat GPT and things like that, but I suspect they also go to Google when they want to buy something.
Yeah.
Versus these things.
There is one little undercounted thing there, though, Sashi, the fact that Google's also giving you answers at the top of every search. So
yes.
I wonder if that doesn't skew those numbers a little bit.
Exactly. And I think if you want an AI answer, you might as well just go to Google. Hopefully, it's a little bit more accurate in a way. So the journey part is very interesting. I don't think they call it out here. What they're just saying is, we'll tell you how your customer website visitors and what they're doing, because that's much more important than figuring out, because share of voice, there are a lot of startups that have come up in the last 3-4 months and probably a year. Tracker is one. Profound seems to be doing very well established one. But if you're already a Content Square customer, this would be very rich data for you to see. And also, if you can figure out what language people are using, which I have tried to use Google. I mean, in fact, most of my advice to people is now not to think about keywords. Think about phrases, think about prompts people will be using to discover your content, right? So this is definitely going to help them.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one of the things
point.
that you'll hear is think of when you're building out your website, think of question and answer, because that's what the answer engine's looking for, right? So the more content you can provide that gives it both a question and a clear answer, the more likely it is to be picked up. And there's a bunch of tricks that are starting to come out, of course, just like SEO, right? Some of it's voodoo, and some of it'll change rapidly underneath as the systems evolve.
Yeah, so some great comments there, guys. And I think I'm going to disagree this time, Sashi, with you. You know how disagreements work. It's like karma, right? It comes back. Okay, so I don't know where your analysis is coming from in terms of the traffic, I guess, and early adopter users. I was reading an article, and again, that could depend upon the industry as well as the context as well, right? We as business, okay, we are seeing roughly 70 to 80% drop in our traffic. Okay, I don't know whether you guys have noticed in your businesses, but that's what we are seeing. So where is that traffic moving? Obviously, that is moving to LLM. So that has already moved. A lot of people. So again, it's category, right? So if you are going to be in the example that you had mentioned was slightly more consumerized example, that traffic is still there on Google, but for slightly I would say smarter users, maybe slightly more sophisticated users, experienced executives, B2B tech, that traffic has moved a lot more to, I would say, LLM as well as ChatGPT. Now, here, I don't think anybody has touched the point about the whole CMS as a category. Content Stack, or Content Square, my understanding of their positioning in the market is that they are CMS, right? So CMS did not have and generally the whole perspective is going to be the omni-channel experience, which is probably going to be a key. I would love to see the combined insight in terms of where the traffic is coming from. At this point of time, it's very, very, very hard to figure out. You might get some sense of what people are doing, but not exactly. You get some of these phrases, but it's very limited. So in my mind, I think this is very exciting, and a lot of similar categories are probably going to move in this direction as well. So those are my 2 cents.
And you're starting to see more and more of these scorecards appear, right? Like even like Squarespace has a new tool they've added a few months ago that runs both generic prompts and branded prompts and gives you a score on how you're doing on each of the different answer engines. And you're going to see more and more tools like that. And this I think, positions them with Amplitude and Mixpanel, some of the other Adobe Analytics, some of the other analytics vendors that are definitely moving in this direction to help companies analyze that traffic.
And to your point, Sam, if you're losing 70% of traffic, I would call that a red alert. Here's where I've seen where traffic has decreased. And this is not new to LLMs.
Yeah.
Like, I think the content that has expertise, experience, authority, and trust, right? And this builds where people have to know this content is produced by Sam. So, which means that your website should, I'm just using you as an example because you said your website should detail who Sam is. And, this is going to be interesting because the context will be Sam is a very well-known, well-qualified, knowledgeable analyst. Where do I find more information that actually validates this? So that's where I think a lot of people are failing. I'm not saying I haven't seen your site in a long time, but people are failing where the CEO is just saying to their marketer, hey, go write about this subject. And it takes them 2 weeks to go back and forth, and then it comes out as something that nobody understands, and it's not a word of an expert, right? So LLMs get that context. And then the other thing is structured data.
Yeah. So Sashi, our team literally lives there, to be completely honest. And it's not just us, it's our competitors as well. So the whole industry is losing that much traffic.
Yeah.
We are comparing literally every day.
I've seen a lot of people complaining that. I thought I read somewhere that HubSpot is losing some traffic, and that's also because they had a lot of general information. Now they should probably try to be more specific to what their core category is.
Yeah, but traffic does not mean the actual traffic, meaning the leads. Anymore. I think Neil Patel, I think, did an article that traffic does not have as much meaning. Initially, it was like, okay, if you have 3,000 clicks, then you are probably going to get this much business.
I
It
agree.
isn't that correlation does not exist anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot more less than 15-second traffic, which is worthless to you because they're not doing anything in 15 seconds.
Well, we have 3 minutes left. Let's wrap up. We all have hard stops at 2:00, especially our audience. Let's move forward with what do we got going on this weekend? It's a holiday weekend. Anything fun going on? Feels like that we're transitioning out of some cold weather finally to some a little bit warmer. Let's start with you, Shashi. What's going on for you this weekend? And
I think
some
going to
thoughts.
have a very enjoyable, relaxed weekend. You'll probably see a LinkedIn post about Carlsberg on my LinkedIn feed this evening. Trying to connect real world with whatever I'm saying, so storytelling. So, thanks for having me on the show.
Well, you're always welcome. Come on. Michael, what about yourself?
I guess the good story, I would say, my dog and I are going to go hiking a couple of times this weekend because the weather's supposed to be really nice. The truth underneath that is that, and I also am probably going to work on a project I'm trying to finish up for early next week. So, it is the way it is, right?
Well, it feels like we're finally there. We got baseball alive. I think the Blue Jays are probably off and running. Cardinals are actually not doing so bad, but more games that happen. The more games that happen, then they kind of lose their steam. They got a young team, but I'm going to spend the weekend with my family, enjoying whatever holidays we can find. Which I see there's a big one on the horizon, but we'll be able to be outside. The weather's almost 80 finally, and it's nice to enjoy it. Sam, how about you?
Yeah, and here in Canada, I think it's supposed to be off, and I'm grateful to you guys because I could show this meeting to my family that it's not supposed to be holiday for me. These people are putting these client meetings. I'm doing so much business here. But I mean, it's supposed to be off for us, so we are going to have so much fun, I guess, for the next 3 or 4 days. Even Monday is off here from a school perspective. My kids are calling right now, so hopefully we are gonna go out somewhere. But that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Again, this was Analysts Gone Wild. We meet every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. So I'll see you next week. Enjoy your time, guys.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. I got to run to a 2:00 meeting, but have a